Goodness, that is quite the jump. We're going straight from the forge to hell, apparently. I understand that forges can be quite hot, but perhaps we should calm down a little with the hyperbole. I am jumping over many of the enemies, but this is not because we can skip them, but rather because I want to get the most difficult combat out of the way early, which is this area where there are archers on top of this big scaffolding, along with several generals. I very much like the colors for this opening area of the level. The orange faded grass and the general faded look of the whole place, I think very much fits with the atmosphere they're going for. Combat is still not very difficult, but we will be introduced to new enemies in this stage that we have to confront very differently from all the others. So that will be a nice change. It may seem a little late in the game to change things up, but the game has tried to change things up the whole time. Some of it has been successful and some of it not so much, but the attempts in this level are more successful. I find there to be something just so pleasant about this game. It's just a very innocent game made by people who want to make games. And I know there are many games like that, but this game is very unassuming. It was very clearly released with good intentions, even though it was not going to be well received. And I like that it didn't deter the developers from making a sequel. A part of me always thinks it is just a little bit sad when a game with so much passion into it either doesn't turn out very well or does turn out well, but many people dislike it. I wouldn't say this game turned out very well, but I do wish more people liked it. That's a bit of a selfish desire because I could understand why most people don't want to play this. This is our new enemy type. I think this enemy is a pepper. I think they're supposed to be peppers. I will call them peppers. These new pepper enemies have some unique mechanics to them. They can shoot fireballs, and they can attack you at close range with their clubs, but most importantly, they only take a single hit and they explode when defeated. Because they only take a single hit, we are going to be using Broccoli Joe to fight them because of his force shove attack. It is very optimal for dealing with enemies that only require a single hit, because you can attack them from quite a distance, and you don't get hit by the explosion afterward. I am not an engineer, so I'm not in a very good place to say how this might work. But if someone could tell me whether it makes sense to try overloading the system by turning on these furnaces, I'm not sure it makes very much sense, but again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't want to assume. I'm not even quite sure what the system is that we're overloading. I do very much like the change in scenery in this level that goes along with the new enemy types. Something very important in a game, even if it is very good in terms of gameplay, is that the scenery changes every once in a while, unless you are going for a very, very specific kind of atmosphere. Because scenery changing is something that prevents boredom much easier than changing game mechanics very frequently. And I do think this game is a very nice example of that. The game mechanics may not be very good, and the game design may not be very good, but you see new enemy types and new scenery very often, and I think that helps. If this game had mostly the same scenery throughout, then it would not be nearly as enjoyable, I think. So even though the game is not very deep, the change in scenery makes up for that in some ways. I also think the nature of the new enemy type is very satisfying. It is fun to dodge around their little fire bullets and give them one quick blow with the force shove to knock them down. It's especially satisfying when we can hit 2 or 3 of them at once. Just like the rest of the combat, it is not very hard or challenging, but it is fun. I'm not sure most people would find the combat fun, but I enjoy it. But I also think the game is very cute. In case you missed it, we are attempting to turn on 9 furnaces in total. They are very difficult to miss, and the last 4 of them are all in one room together. I do wish there was a little more world building, because I like this environment, but I really want to know what the cages in here are for. The cages add to the scenery and the feeling of the level, but I want to know what they're for, too. If there were something in the cages, I think that would solve the problem. But I know the game is not trying to be deep or meaningful, really. I know it's just trying to be a cute reference to a certain kind of media that the developer probably enjoyed very much. But you can do both, I think. Maybe it just didn't occur to them. I do think they deserve a lot more credit for creating unique environments, when generally this kind of game is associated with using stock Unity assets and stock Unity character models. They obviously did not have very much budget to work with, but they still did the best with what they had. I wonder how I wonder how the big evil Shogun guy got all these pepper minions. I wonder if he hired them, or if this is some kind of slavery, because you only see these pepper creatures inside the forge. For some reason I'm getting very strange flashbacks to Hellboy Dogs of the Night, which is that PC adventure game starring Hellboy on the channel that was Let's Played quite some time ago, years ago. That was a very good game with a lot of good ideas that I think people underrated. The PS1 port is very terrible, which is a shame because it's probably more well known than the PC version. But I'm not sure how that's related to this. Speaking of this game though, this is probably the most challenging room in the level. The explosion from these guys can cause you to get knocked back in the lava, which will of course kill you. So it's best to stay on one platform and let them come to you, instead of chase them. It's a little more difficult to fight them if you're playing as Kaoru. The furnaces in this level have a rather strange and interesting design to them, I find. Upcoming after we turn on this furnace is the hardest platforming in the level. We must jump across this lava through this door, while there are pepper enemies on the other side that can shoot at us. Sometimes they decide not to shoot, and that's ideal, because they can... Oh, that one exploded by himself. As I was saying, they can easily knock us into the lava. And now we enter the last room of the level. I appreciate how short this level feels. It feels very breezy, even though it is 11 minutes long. Maybe because it introduces new variety. But there are 4 rooms blocked by fire in here, or 4 alcoves, each with a furnace. And after we turn on those 4 furnaces, we will have finished the level. So let's turn on those furnaces.